Michael Haas back to talk more about wire fraud and how to let you know how it's been happening. And so as we continue our deep dive into wire fraud and escrow and title company trust accounts, let's talk about some schemes that have been going on recently to try and help you prevent them from happening in your office because they get to be a little bit scary. And it can be a bad day when someone finds out that not just hundreds of thousands of dollars, but over $1 million of funds are diverted away from the trust account or the escrow transaction, the real estate transaction, the refinance, the bulk sale. Any type of real estate transaction or business transaction can be affected by this. It can be something starting as hacking into emails, where they would send an email that's phishing, spoofing. It's got one number, one digit, one letter, a one instead of a small L, throwing an extra dot in someplace. Anything that when you've got a long email address that you're not necessarily going to pay attention to, and telling somebody, okay, I want to give you some new bank information on my account for when you send out the wire transfer, or when you need to wire money into the escrow company. Here's their new bank account information, just so you know. And so at that point, then someone's going to be sending a wire transfer to an account number they're not supposed to send it to. Now, one thing that it can be very common on is when there's a seller in a real estate transaction, their proceeds from the sale, and they've given an instruction to the escrow company or the title company to wire their proceeds to their bank account. Well, someone finds out about this, and it could be that they get in through a real estate agent's email. It could be that they find out from being able to hack into the escrow company or the title company's um, uh, website to find out what transactions are going on. And so they send an email to the seller and say, "Okay, I need you to send in or confirm your wire information." And then they get a hold of that and they change it before they get it to the escrow company. Or let's say the escrow company needs to get information to the buyer saying, okay, we need your money so we can close the transaction. Here's our wire instructions. And someone diverts that and tells the buyer, no, here's the correct wire information, so that when the funds are going to get sent into the escrow company, they get sent someplace else to the hands of the fraudster. Another way they're trying to do it is they're replicating what the bank website looks like. They're replicating what the bank would be sending to the escrow company. So again, they've found out that there's an escrow transaction that's getting ready to close. They have information on the buyer, and so they contact the buyer and they say, "Here's where your wire needs to go to." And it's a false and felonious type of bank account that's not the one the escrow company has. And so what they then do is, while they've diverted the buyer and those funds are going someplace else, they'll send an email to the escrow company with a confirmation. It looks like from the bank that says you have received a wire transfer in the amount of X number of dollars, because the escrow company was expecting it. And that way, is if they get this phony bank confirmation of the incoming wire, then they're not going to be asking questions as where's our wire, and they'll go ahead and issue a receipt and they'll close their transaction. In the meantime, the buyer's money has gone off to someplace else, to someone who has hacked into the system and has caused the money to be sent elsewhere. And we had one situation where this happened, and the confirmation email looked just like the one that came from the bank, but the escrow company didn't know about it, and they closed the transaction. Well, it was only after they reconciled their bank accounts that they found out that the money never came into them. And therefore, what they had to do was they had to come up with the money to cover the transaction, because they've already closed and they've already dispersed funds to sellers and to the title company. And so it made for a not very happy morning when they found out that the money had not actually come in. And what else they're trying to people, another some schemes we've seen is they call it the man in the middle type of scheme, where it's a payoff. So you've got a seller and a buyer in a real estate transaction. The buyer's going to buy the property and get a new loan. The seller is selling the property and their existing loan is going to get paid off. Well, somehow the fraudster has found out about the payoff and has gone to the title company or have gone to the escrow company and intercepted the email that came from the lender saying, here's where you need to pay off the loan. And they changed it. and they said, okay, here's your payoff demand, here's the dollar amount, that's okay. They kept that the same, but here's the email address. I'm sorry, here's the bank account information as to where that money is going to go, and it's changed from being what the payoff lender actually had sent in, and so they've changed that. So now when the escrow company either does the payoff or they send the information to the title company, and the title company does the payoff, the money goes someplace else. It doesn't get back to it doesn't get back to the payoff lender, and then all of a sudden it's now escrow is closed. The seller has received proceeds. Buyer's gotten a new loan, and the payoff lender's going, "Where's my money?" And escrow's going, "Well, it was we wired it to you," and they provide the wire information that came on that payoff demand, and the payoff lender's going, "We didn't send that to you." And all of a sudden, that's another bad day. Because then it's going to create a claim against the title insurance policy, which the title company will pay. Then there's going to be looking to see who's at fault for sending bad payoff information to the title company or using bad payoff information, and where did the hack happen, and so on. We had a case recently where someone had gotten a spoofed email on their cell phone, or they were looking on their cell phone. They'd gotten a spoofed email. They thought it was loan information that was important, so they opened it. Well, that was a bad email, and all of a sudden, once they opened it, now the fraudster had access as to where to send their bad wire information, and that was a $1.8 million fraud that still has not been resolved. The title company did pay the claim on it, but now we're waiting to see what happens between the seller, the lender, and so on. So you want to be very careful when payoff information comes in. And then there's another one where it's where people have now started to call the escrow company or the title company and say they're from the bank. And it's like they're impersonating the bank, and they're using artificial intelligence to a certain extent of disguising the voice and so on. And they call and they say, we're from your bank. We're seeing some activity on your bank account. Can you help us clear it up? I need you to help us on your side so we can try and get this resolved. And they'll ask for login information or a password or a passcode relating to the bank account. Well, banks will never ever ask for that information, ever. But this person didn't know that. They kept hearing, "Oh, there's a problem. Let's see if we can help. Let's see if we can be a hero and get this resolved." And so the person asked for, "I need your login information," and the person at the company gave it to them. Well, that's the first mistake, because now all of a sudden they are able to get in to the bank account, get in to the bank's website with your login information. They can see the bank account. They can see what's going on relative to the activity. And what they can then do is they can start sending out wire transfers. Because what they did is they would initiate a wire transfer, they would get it set up, and then because with the way the banks try to do it is you need two approvals, one to set it up, one to release it. And so they had all these wires set up, and so they said to the person on the phone, "Hey, okay, now we're ready to try and put a stop to this. Can I get your passcode for sending out a wire transfer?" It's called a token, where the number rotates all the time after every wire transfer. And the person at the company's office gave it to them, and that allowed them to go in and release all these wire transfers. And there were a lot that went out, and it was very, very expensive for what left the trust account. And that's scary, because you never want to give anybody access unknowingly to your bank account information. You never want to give out any sensitive information. You never want to give out anything called non-public information. Your banker never will call you to find out how to get into its own account for you. So these are some of the common schemes that have gone on, we've seen in the last 6 months, and it gets to be intense. It's no different than when John Dillinger was robbing banks in the 1930s. They asked him, "Why are you robbing banks?" And he said, "Because that's where the money is." Well, that's why these fraudsters are going after the escrow companies and the title companies, because these trust accounts have millions and tens of millions of dollars in them, and that's what they're going after. So now that we've scared you with what's happening, we're going to get to another episode and talk about how to prevent that. Stay tuned. Next episode, how to stop wire fraud. Thank you.